What is wrong with my plants? Cried Yasmin. I've been a terrible mama.
Welcome to the KidLit Deconstruction Zone podcast. In each episode, we'll mine children's books for tools to fill your author toolbox. Let's dig in.
Episode 4: Tools for Creating Conflict.
Today on the KidLit Deconstruction Zone podcast, we'll be talking about how to make a story with a compelling conflict. A compelling conflict allows the reader to invest in the character and their journey. Conflicts in stories are obstacles to the character's goal. Conflicts can be big or small, physical or mental. They can affect one or multiple characters or be the driving force for the entire story. We'll discuss this critical part of storytelling by sharing 3 tools: internal, external struggle, raising the stakes, and a satisfying ending.
The tools.
For tool number 1, internal, external struggle. Internal and external conflicts affect the course of events in the story, as well as the decisions a character makes. It creates tension while forcing the characters to revisit their motives and values. Conflict helps the story move forward by noting the internal reactions a character has to an external action. Characters face their weaknesses and fears in a way that helps them grow and change. Understanding the relationship between this action reaction process helps authors create a more compelling and engaging story.
Here's your writing tip for internal, external struggles. Use weaknesses or flaws and external fears as obstacles to challenge your main character throughout your story. The second tool is raises the stakes. Stakes are what the main characters gain, lose, or risk based on their actions. Some stories literally put the world on the line. Others have smaller stakes, like whether veggies can stay inside a taco. Stakes should match the intensity of conflict and be presented in an age-appropriate way for readers. Even if the stakes are wildly high, your main characters need time to react to the changes as the story moves forward. Humor, quiet moments, new scenes, or page turns provide the space for characters to reflect on and react to the changing stakes. Choosing when to raise the stakes is important because that escalation moves the story forward and it piques the reader's curiosity. This momentum causes us to literally turn pages to find out what happens next. Here's a writing tip for raises the stakes. Brainstorm low and high stakes gains or losses that impact your main character. Try shifting when they occur in your story.
Our final tool is a satisfying ending. A satisfying ending ties up loose ends for both the internal and external conflict. The tension that the character has experienced is resolved. The reader is left with a comfortable feeling after moving through an emotional and physical roller coaster ride. Often, endings can be predictable, especially if the author left plot breadcrumbs along the way. More exciting, though, are the outcomes with an unexpected twist that surprises the reader. In a series, the main conflict is overcome, but a new one is often introduced, opening new possibilities for the character's journey. This keeps the reader intrigued enough to invest in accompanying the main character on their next adventure.
Here's your writing tip for satisfying ending. Link back to an image, a person, or a location from the beginning to answer a question or reframe an event. The books.
Our picture book selection for this episode is Taco Falls Apart by Brenda S. Miles, PhD, and illustrated by Monica Filipina. In Taco Falls Apart, we meet our main character, Taco. We're immediately introduced to the use of our first tool, internal-external conflict. Taco is under tremendous pressure to do his job and to do it well. This is what he thinks everyone expects from him. We see this in the text. He must stand tall. He must be open. He must stay strong. There's so much for a little Taco to do. We see Taco trying to manage difficult emotions that resulted from his negative self-talk. We also see the internal struggle Taco faces by looking at the facial expressions he makes in the illustrations. He has a hard job to do. Notice the determination. The author and illustrator apply the second tool of raising the stakes when it just gets to be too much pressure for the little guy. He literally cracks under pressure. Read from the text. But one day, Taco hits his breaking point. The world wants too much from me, he cries. Taco cracks, tips over, and falls apart. Poor Taco. What will he do now? Look at the illustrations. See his distraught face, his outstretched arms, and scattered veggies? Luckily, the creators move on to the third tool and provide us with a satisfying ending to our story. With the help of his friends, including Nacho, Taco can now look at things in a different way. He learns to focus on the great things that he can do, rather than focusing on the things that are negative and present a challenge. He redirects his thinking and finds that changing his thoughts also changes outcomes. Let's look at the text. Taco thinks for a long time. Well, I think there are days when I stand tall and hold us all together, says Taco. And thinking about it and thinking about what I can do makes me feel kind of terrific. So now I want to do this. From the illustration, you can see he's realizing that he's in control of his thoughts. He can truly be a terrific taco after all. The back matter provided at the end of the book gives the reader resources to help children understand the difference between unhelpful and helpful thoughts as they create a thinking menu of their own.
Morgan's chapter book pick is Yasmin the Gardener. Words by Sadia Faruqi and art by Hatem Ali.
Today's chapter book pick is Yasmin the Gardener. Yasmin demonstrates an internal-external struggle when she finds gardening challenging and begins to question her ability to care for her plants just as her parents care for her. Quote, "What is wrong with my plants?" cried Yasmin. "I've been a terrible mama." End quote. Yasmin's parents are great parental models for Yasmin, and she wants to be just like them, but in a botanical way. For the second tool, Yasmin the Gardener raises the stakes as Yasmin explores various methods to keep her plants from wilting. Quote, "The next day she checked again. They were still wilting. Maybe they weren't thirsty," she said. "Maybe they need new soil." End quote. Yasmin continues to find out-of-the-box solutions to help her plant babies. For our last tool, Yasmin the Gardener has a satisfying ending because Yasmin is innovative in her problem solving and feels emotionally whole, which impacts the reader as well. Quote, "The next day, Yasmin and her parents went outside. Her flowers looked happy and healthy. Hooray, I'm a good mama after all," Yasmin said. End quote. Although she seeks out support from her elders, Yasmin uses her imagination to help her plants thrive and boost her self-esteem.
Morgan's middle grade book is The Egg Incident by Ziggy Hanor and art by Daisy Winter.
Today's middle grade pick is a graphic novel entitled The Egg Incident. The Egg Incident's main character, Humphrey, demonstrates external struggle with a daily fear of trying simple tasks and is worried that something may go wrong because of an incident with their uncle. As Humphrey over-prepares to go outside, his parents tell him, quote, "And never, ever sit on a wall," end quote. That warning leads Humphrey to feel fearful of his every move from walking down the steps to crossing the street. For the second tool, the egg incident raises the stakes as Humphrey goes from being afraid to cross the street to playing common games like hide and seek with his new friend. Quote, "I'll run and you can catch me." Heel toe, heel toe. This isn't very fun. Shall we play catch instead? Okay, I'm ready. Ah! Okay. End quote. After an attempt to play catch, they play another game, and that doesn't go as planned either. As the reader, we root for Humphrey to take charge of his fear in order to live an enjoyable life. For our last tool, the egg incident has a satisfying ending as Humphrey faces his fears and overcomes them, which leaves the reader whole while offering an element of surprise in the ending. Quote, "It's important to be careful, but if you're too careful all the time, you miss out on all the fun." End quote. The reader is in for a fun and unexpected ending as Humphrey shares the joy of not living in fear.
Today's YA pick is The Brightwood Code by Monica Hess. While this book is a work of historical fiction, it does include a content warning. Topics such as misogyny, trauma, PTSD, bullying, and sexual assault are all in the text. So take care reading or recommending this book to others. We're first introduced to the main character, Etta, after she returns from a mysterious mission during World War I. Her internal struggle is clear. She wants to forget everything that happened during her time as a hello girl or a military telephone operator. But the trauma is trapped in her body. Quote, "I still find my hands shaking at random times, stilling them after my shift with a cigarette and passing out unconscious." The author, Monica Hess, introduces a symbol of Etta's external struggle in the first chapter. A note stuffed in her messy locker at work, and Etta's afraid of what it stands for. Quote, "Just pick it up," I instruct myself. Pick it up. It's only paper. But then the bell rings, signifying the end of my break, and I leave the paper fragment closed in my locker. Etta tries to dismiss the note's power over her, but later in the story, the note becomes more significant. The second tool, raises the stakes, happens after Etta receives several threatening phone calls at her job. We learn later that Etta was responsible for transferring calls between military leaders and fighters on the front lines. If she didn't think quickly enough, troops could die. And Etta's terrified that the caller knows about a mistake she made that cost the lives of over 40 men. The situation gets worse when she realizes the caller is not abroad, but in Washington, D.C. with her. Quote, "Here in the city?" Saying that out loud sends a tingle down my spine. That truth terrifies Etta. And it's that same fear that launches her to figure out who the caller's identity is. The third tool, satisfying ending, comes into play because the story is both a suspense and a mystery. The story is told in alternating chapters, switching between as Etta's present-day search for the mysterious caller and flashbacks revealing the events of her life as a hello girl on the front lines. In the last chapter, those two things collide in a satisfying way. And for the first time, Etta is able to accept her feelings and her actions, as well as what happened to her, and openly mourn with others affected by World War I. Quote, "I am here to mourn the boys who died. Always mourn them. But to mourn myself, the girl I left behind in the war, and the girl I will never get to meet because of it." End quote. The story manages to authentically represent Etta's grief, trauma, and hope all in one chapter. The homework.
For today's homework, put your story's conflict to the test. Does your main character have an internal and external struggle? Do the stakes or obstacles escalate and move the story forward? And will your young readers find the story's ending satisfying by resolving the main character's conflict? No matter how many conflicts your story has, they must be important to your main characters. If they care, so do we. Whether you're writing picture books, YA, or something in between, grab your writing tools and get to work.
If you have any book suggestions for us to deconstruct in future episodes, please leave a comment below. Thank you for listening to the KDZ podcast, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe.